Imagine stepping onto a midnight flight to Geneva, the clouds drifting far below, first class only an arm's reach away, and being told, right to your face, that your seat isn't yours. That's how it started for me. Ariel Monroe, 16 years old, black, and just trying to breathe in a world that feels quick to judge. You know what I mean? One minute you're proud flying solo, invited to present at the World Robotics Youth Congress because you built an AI tool for kids who can't speak, in the next, someone's telling you to move because, apparently, you don't belong. Yeah, that happened. It was just after midnight when I settled into seat 1A. Leather, window, plenty of space in me, boarding pass, my name, my dream coming true. The hum of the plane was almost soothing. I opened my notebook, thumbed the edges, thinking of Orin, the device I built to help nonverbal kids tell their moms when they're scared or happy or just want a hug. But instead of excitement, I felt this tension, like everyone's eyes were flicking my way and then away, like I'd snuck in someplace off limits. Then came the voice, clipped, tight, and way too familiar if you've ever been called out for existing where you're not supposed to. "You're in my seat," this woman says, not asking, just stating. I showed her my boarding pass. She snatched it, didn't even blink, then called for a flight attendant. That's how it happens, right? Not with shouting, just with a smile that never reaches the eyes and a request for cooperation. Brianna, the lead attendant, was all polite but hollow. She told me, "We need you to move to economy for a bit. High demand route, you know how it is." Except I didn't. Not really. I was invited, I said, my voice steady but my hands ice cold. "This is my seat." She offered compensation, even an apologetic smile. But you can't compensate dignity. And just like that, it wasn't about my seat. It was about who belongs. It was about being quietly erased by people who'd rather believe someone else's comfort matters more than your right to be there at all. But here's the thing. People are watching, even when you think you're alone. From the next cabin, an older man, silver hair, corduroy blazer, stood up. "If her boarding pass says 2A, then it's hers," he said, voice warm, but with a "don't mess with me" certainty. The woman, Granger, was her name, just about snapped. But the flight attendant hesitated, and suddenly it wasn't so easy to push me out of my seat. I could feel my dad's eyes on me from business class Langston Monroe, though nobody else seemed to know it was him. He was watching quietly, not interfering, just letting me handle it. I knew he could have ended the whole thing in one phone call. But he didn't, and I didn't ask, because maybe you have to fight some things yourself. And so I sat there, feeling the stares and whispers, thinking of my mom, gone 3 years, breast cancer, the bravest person I ever knew, how she'd always said, "Kindness doesn't ask permission. It just is." I thought about the kids Orin had helped. I thought about how many times people had tried to shrink me, and how often I'd let them. The cabin settled, but the tension was thick. Victoria Granger sat in economy now, tapping furiously on her phone. Brianna kept glancing over her shoulder. Other passengers muttered and eyed me, the black girl in first class who'd had the nerve to say no. And then something shifted. Another passenger, a young engineer named Micah, leaned over and said quietly, "You're Ariel Monroe, right? My little brother uses your device. Changed our lives." He gave me a fist bump. Out of nowhere, a little burst of hope. But there was more to come. When the flight attendant returned with her supervisor, they tried again, more official this time. "We're asking you to move for security purposes," they said, like my presence was some kind of threat. The captain emerged, tall, graying, every inch authority, and asked what was going on. Victoria Granger, not missing a beat, explained she was protecting the integrity of the airline. The captain looked at my boarding pass, looked at her, then back at me. But before he could speak, a voice from the back cut through. "She was removed because she's black," the old ambassador said, holding up my notebook. "This girl belongs here." And just like that, the air changed. People spoke up. George, the diplomat. Denise, a teacher who said her students of color always got labeled disruptive. Mr. Ling, who'd seen the same thing in boardrooms. Even Brianna started to crack. And when Victoria snapped, "What about fairness? What about rules?" An elderly woman named Ella Laner stood and said, "Rules weren't written for people like me. They were written to keep us in line." That was the twist, the real break in the storm. Ordinary passengers, each carrying scars and memories, decided to stand up, one after another. Not shouting, just telling the truth. I stayed standing, my voice finally clear. I am 16. I built an AI tool for nonverbal children. I was invited to speak in Geneva. And you still think I don't belong? The captain paused, then said, Miss Monroe, please take your seat. We'll sort this out. Langston Monroe finally stood, but he didn't pull rank. He just looked at the crew and said, You didn't care who she was. You didn't think she belonged. But dignity isn't negotiable, not in my air, not on my flight, not ever again. Then he handed the captain a jet-black credential card. The color drained from their faces. Suddenly, they realized who he was, the architect of the airline's own AI systems, one of the 6 top FAA compliance officers in the country. That's when everything changed. The captain announced a full audit, grounded the flight temporarily, and required Victoria to move to the very back. As she stomped off, her face was pure disbelief as storm losing its power. We sat together, my father and I, as the cabin finally breathed. Passengers came over, shaking hands, offering words, some apologizing, others quietly thanking us for making them see. Micah was invited to lead the compliance review. Brianna apologized, and I told her, Don't say it just to feel better. Say it to change. She nodded, tears in her eyes. But just as I thought the storm had passed, there was another crisis. My insulin kit was missing, tossed during the seat swap. Panic flashed through the cabin until Brianna found it in the trash. Suddenly, everyone realized it wasn't just a seat. It was my safety, my life. That's what bias does. It risks everything you have, just because you don't fit someone else's mold. When the audit began, the captain stood in the aisle and announced, Tonight we crossed a different kind of boundary. I apologized to Miss Monroe, not just as a captain, but as a person. The applause was soft, steady, like rain after drought. By the time we landed, a new charter was in the works, the window seat initiative. I helped draft it, my dad by my side, with Micah, Brianna, and even Victoria, who for all her bluster agreed to help fund the first training module. The point was simple. Dignity isn't a privilege, it's a right. No more silent removals. No more believing comfort is more important than truth. In Geneva, as I walked into the Congress, I paused. I looked back at my dad, at the crowd, and spoke. Technology is only as meaningful as the humanity it serves. The window seat charter will ensure everyone's right to be seen and respected. We carried more than suitcases off that planeway, carried a lesson. That one voice, choosing to stand, can make silence impossible. That justice isn't just about policy. It's about people. If you believe everyone deserves their place, don't just watch, stand, speak, share. Let's keep building a world where every seat, window, or aisle belongs to those who refuse to disappear. If you made it this far, I want to hear your voice too. Like, share, and comment below. Tell us, what would you do if someone tried to erase you? Where do you draw the line between comfort and justice? Let's make sure the next flight and the next story lands somewhere better than where it began.